Und damit ein herzliches...
It's locked, all right.
Genau, ein herzliches Locked Alright. Nein, ein herzliches Willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Vampyr. Haben wir mit... Die haben wir noch gar nicht geredet, ne? Aber sie ist mir gerade irgendwie wichtiger.
I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
It was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
Ja, keine Hinweise.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of postulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Hier gibt's auch nichts
I'll
mehr,
leave you,
alles klar.
Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Ah, sie ist noch hier. Noch mehr Gequatsche.
Good evening, nurse.
Good evening, Doctor. I don't think we've been introduced yet. My name is Pippa Hawkins.
And I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Swansea has recently offered me a position in this hospital.
Well, it's a euphemism that your help will be appreciated, Doctor.
Nichts Persönliches.
How is the Pembroke staff coping with the epidemic?
Well, not well. Milton, the ambulance driver, is even more grumpy than usual, especially concerning doctors.
Why does Milton dislike doctors?
I don't know. Just ask him. But be warned, Milton is not the chatty type.
Why is Milton grumpy on a daily basis? Is it just an act?
Milton's not the kind of man who's bothered about a bad reputation, whether he deserved it or not.
How long have you been a nurse?
Or long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
Nurse Hawkins, the Spanish flu won't last forever. Even the Black Plague didn't kill everyone.
I wish I could believe you. But what if this epidemic was worse? What if in the end, nobody was spared?
You must get a hold of yourself, Nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
Okay, das war's hier schon. Dann sollten wir wohl noch mal mit dem Waffenschieber reden.
Good evening, Milton.
Good evening, Doctor. Still trying to save lives?
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Fuck them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reed.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed. Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of life.
Goodbye, Milton.
Gut, der hat natürlich sehr, sehr viel Mist gesehen. Oh, wir haben... Ah, nein, da hinten haben wir noch jemanden. Und da haben wir auch noch jemanden.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True, true. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time. Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior, a man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Sonst haben wir nichts mehr, ne?
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Haben wir mit... Ja, haben wir schon geredet. Okay, aber mit ihm noch nicht. Und da ist auch noch jemand. Oh Gott. So viel Gequatsche.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
Ach, so ist das.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick. Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here, then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
Good evening, sir.
Ja, macht ja keinen Sinn, den jetzt hier zum Reden zu zwingen die ganze Zeit.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Aykroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is, I disagreed about wooden nails, not flesh and bones.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable. And your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies. Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
Das ist doch nicht deine Schuld. Das ist,
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army. Building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Ellen didn't bring them with her that night.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
Always knew the words to calm the children. As for me.
Tja, die Stories von den Leuten sind natürlich alle sehr interessant, ergreifend, also da ist alles irgendwie dabei. Die haben wir noch nicht geredet. Boah, ich habe echt keine Lust mehr zu quatschen.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed? Yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swans's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
Wieso Fuscher?
Tell me, Waverly, what do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
Other people may say that's too conservative a point of view.
Conservative? And what are you going to say to Mr. Fiddick if he loses his arm because of the operation? Because that's what's going to happen if the surgery is a failure.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
Aren't you too old for such jealousy? It really won't do you any good, you know.
Don't be ridiculous, Dr. Reed. A simple glance is enough for me to know you have nothing for me to envy.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
Knowledge has always been and will remain our main weapon. And it has always come at a price. And personal initiative.
It is not a question of initiative. It is a question of integrity. These men and women have put their faith in us, Dr. Reed.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd. Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Boah. Was für ein Arsch. Aus, um dich zu entwickeln. Ich glaube, da soll noch ruhig aus, um dich zu entwickeln stehen. Wir haben hier zwar noch einen, aber ich würde jetzt trotzdem gerne mal das Büro aufsuchen, weil wir haben jetzt 2 Folgen lang gequatscht. Ich habe langsam tatsächlich so ein bisschen die Schnauze voll. Nein, das ist nicht mein Büro.
It's locked.
Natürlich. Aber wo ist mein Büro? Tippett, Strickland,
It's locked, all right.
Dr. Reed.
This must be the place. It's definitely away from prying eyes. Relegated to the shadows. A kingdom of my own. At least I won't be sleeping in a coffin.
So, dann wollen wir mal. Das haben wir. Oh, da müssen wir erstmal weiterkommen. Erhöht den Blutaufnahme, wenn bis zum... Oh, ja, auf jeden Fall. Wissenschaft. Erhöht die Anzahl der... Schnelle Regeneration. Auch das von Vorteil. Oh, ja, den haben wir gekillt. Der hat es aber auch nicht anders verdient. Clay Cox, 30 Jahre, männlich, ein zwielichtige Gestalt, die keine Rücksicht auf andere nahm, abseits vielleicht von seiner Frau Edwina. Er war der Anführer der Wetwood Boys, einer einflussreichen Gang aus dem gesetzlosen East End Dogs. Die von der Gang aufgestellten Regeln galten nur für Außenseiter und Mr. Cox selbst war für einen großen Teil des Schwarzmarkts verantwortlich, von dem der Bezirk derzeit geplagt wird. Mr. Cox, gleichsam zäh und selbstsüchtig, schien alle anderen Menschen lediglich als Beute, Feinde oder Werkzeuge zu erachten. Er sah Edwina als sein weibliches Gegenstück an. Sie war die einzige Frau, die er jemals respektierte. Vielleicht, weil sie die einzige war, die es jemals wagte, ihm Widerstand zu leisten. Jedoch wurde sie in seinen letzten Gedanken übergangen, denn Mr. Cox war zu beschäftigt damit, die Welt zu verfluchen, während ich ihn tötete. Ja, ich glaube, ich brauche das nicht auffüllen. Gut, ich würde sagen, hier machen wir ein Folgenpäuschen und sehen uns dann hoffentlich in der nächsten Folge wieder. Bis dahin, ciao.